I asked the writing community over in Twitter to give me the best writing advice they can give to other people, and here's what we got. James Jordan said, "Careful who you show your stuff to. I had a program prepared and I offered to present it. The director of the organization used my material to do the presentation instead of hiring me to do it, and then went to other conferences and made money with my material as if it were his own." Quote.
When I was really young, William Burroughs told me, and I was really struggling. We never had any money, and William, the advice that William gave me was, build a good name. Keep your name clean. Don't make compromises. Don't worry about making a bunch of money or being successful. Be concerned with doing good work and make the right choices and protect your work. And if you build a good name, eventually, that name will be its own currency.
I think this is a crucial advice. A lot of writers out there need to be careful of who they show their writing material to. JT Tenera said, quote, "Find the spark that makes you unique and run with it. Carry that torch to the end and light your own flame with a smile." Quote,
"How did Spider-Man come about?"
I had done the Fantastic Four and the X-Men, and my publisher said, "Hey, they're doing well, do another one." So I came up with Spider-Man, and I said to him, "I got this great idea. I want to call him Spider-Man, and he's a teenager." So I gave him the idea, and he said, "Stan, that is the worst idea I have ever heard." He said, "First of all, people hate spiders. You can't call a hero Spider-Man. Secondly," he said, "he can't be a teenager. Teenagers are only sidekicks. And finally, he can't have personal problems. Don't you know what a superhero is?" So he wouldn't let me do it. One day we had a book we were going to kill called Amazing Fantasy. When you're going to do the last issue, nobody cares what you put in it. Just to get it out of my system, I put Spider-Man in the book, and we sold it. And it was a bestseller. So my publisher called me in a couple of weeks later and said, "Stan, you remember that character, Spider-Man, that you and I liked so much? Why don't you do a series of it?" And that's how Spidey was born.
The author of Mars, MJ, said, quote, "There are many reasons for rejection. I just missed out on inclusion in a horror anthology because my story had a group of kids looking for monsters. The only reason the publication passed was because the new IT was due out the same week as the book. I'm glad they told me." Quote, "This is honestly true. There are so many reasons for rejection. One of them is just not being good enough. So you have to practice and practice and practice and keep writing. One day you will become good enough. Others are less technical, like maybe the agent is just not feeling like it. Maybe the book's not right for the publication house and you have to find a different publisher. Whatever it might be, there are a lot of reasons for rejections, and MJ is telling the truth here."
I don't know that this answers the question, but what occurred to me as you're asking me, I've been rejected by the New Yorker now 18 straight times. I've had 4 stories in over the years, but my last 18 submissions have been rejected. No, and you can say what, but every writer can tell you this.
I used to call it rejection farming, and I still, when I finish a short story, I send it to the New Yorker just to get that rejection out of the way.
Gregory Williams said, quote, "Commit to enjoying every part of the process, every single part of it, because it is all a unit. All of this, including this nutty Twitter thing, is part of what we have chosen to devote our valuable attention to. And to see it anything as less than wonders is a waste of that precious gift."
The best description of writing a novel that I ever heard was actually in Thomas Williams's book, The Hair of Harold Drew, which is about a novelist trying to write a novel, and it just covers like 1 or 2 days in this process, and a lot of things happen to him. It's a fabulous book. But he says that writing a novel is like building a little campfire on an empty, dark plain, and one by one, these characters come out of the dark, and each one has a little pile of wood, and they put it on the fire, and if you're very lucky, before the fire goes out, it's this big bonfire, and all the characters stand around it and warm themselves. And that's the way it's always been for me. I have a good friend over in Vermont, John Irving, and John says that he always begins a novel by writing the last line. And to me, that's like eating your dessert before you eat the meal. And everybody works a different way, and God bless John, and he's done some wonderful work in his lifetime, and he'll probably do some more, but I could never write a book that way. The way that I think of it, you know, is that fire. I love that particular image, but I've also always thought of it in terms of there's a little thread, a little red thread that goes into a hole in the baseboard, and you just start to pull it out, and you see what's on the other end of it, and sooner or later you get there. For me, the fun of writing novels isn't in the finished product, which I don't care about that much. There's a guy who was looking at my shelf over there. All the books are on the shelf, and to me, those are like dead skin, the things that are done. But I love the process.
Conrad Wesley said, quote, "Write what you want to write and do not worry over much about chasing trends or trying too hard to make it marketable. Such pursuits almost always guarantee that you are not putting your best out there." Quote.
You know, I get puzzled and lost when people start asking me questions about what they should be writing for the market or whatever. There is no market. There's nobody in the whole world of marketing ever would have woken up one day and said, a series of unfortunate events is exactly what the world needs. Yeah.
Don't ever cave into the pressure of publishers, you know, or agents who say, well, you've written a nice book of stories, but we need a novel now, you know. And if you're not a novel writer, don't feel you have to write a novel. So do what you want to do, and don't worry if it's a little odd or doesn't fit the market, you know.
Caitlin said, quote, "The best investment you can make is a good copy editor. I can't stress this enough. When starting out, it was so easy to miss crossed viewpoints, continuity problems, bad sentence structure, and grammatical errors. Don't be put off by the advice if there's a lot to do. They know best." Quote. And as a bonus, I would like you to see this.
Is there anything that you've always wanted to ask me? Because, George, I will.
Yes, there is something I want to ask you.
All right.
How the fuck do you write so many books so fast? I think, I've had a really good 6 months. I've written 3 chapters, and you've finished 3 books in that time.
Here's the thing, okay? There are books and there are books. The way that I work, I try to get out there and I try to get 6 pages a day. So with a book like End of Watch, and when I'm working, I work every day, 3-4 hours, and I try to get those 6 pages and I try to get them fairly clean. So if the manuscript is, let's say, 360 pages long, that's basically 2 months' work. It's concentrated, but it's but that's assuming that it goes well.
And you do hit 6 pages a day?
I usually do.
You don't ever have a day where you sit down there and it's like constipation and you write a sentence and you hate the sentence and you check your email and you wonder if you had any talent after all and maybe you should have been a plumber. Don't you have days like that?
No, I mean, there's real life. You know, I can be working away and something comes up, and you have to basically get up and you have to go to see the doctor, or you have to take somebody a care package, or you have to go to the post office, because whatever. But mostly I try to get the 6 pages in, although entropy tries to intervene. You know, I did an event at Radio City Music Hall for charity with John Irving and Joe Rowling, and this was the time, J.K. Rowling, and this was at the time that she was finishing the 7th Harry Potter books. And I know that I've been very fortunate as a writer, and you've been terrifically fortunate as a writer. You worked for a long time, wrote a lot of good books, won a lot of awards, and then out of nowhere, all of a sudden this crazy thing happens where all these books are suddenly New York Times bestsellers, and God knows it's deserved, but it's a sort of sudden thing. And here's the other thing, okay? People yell at you and say, "We want the next book, we want the next book." They're like babies, we want the next book right away. I mean, it's a great thing to want that, but the pressure that you feel or I feel compared to that final Harry Potter book. You know, everybody wanted that, and she came to New York, and she was nearly finished with it, and she'd agreed to do this event. And Jo was trying to do 3 things at once. She was going to do a vacation with her kids. She was going to finish the last 5 or 6 chapters of the 7th Harry Potter book, and she was going to do this event. And she showed up to do the sound check at Radio City Music Hall, and she was dressed like any housewife or mother or anyone who was on vacation. She had a shell top on and white clam digger pants and loafers or sandals or something, and her hair tied back in horsetails. And we were trying to talk about what we were going to do and everything. And the Scholastic Press publicist is pulling her aside and talking to her. And Jo was very polite. But when she came back and talked to me, she was really, really angry. And what she said was, "They don't understand what we do they?" And I said, "How can they understand when we don't understand?"
All too true.
Please subscribe if you have reached this far. You're amazing. I appreciate you. I'm trying to grow my channel, so share this video with your friends, like it, subscribe, do anything you can to support me. It's a bit hard, but hey, you know, I will keep trying. Thank you very much. God bless you.